"Mama, I'm not even that hungry," Clover said, watching her mother unwrap the sandwich with the careful, unhurried hands of someone trying not to show that this was the last one. "You should eat it." Tatum Reese looked at her 4-year-old daughter and felt the particular love that has no bottom, the kind that makes a person capable of things they didn't know they could do. "I had a big breakfast," she said, which was not true. She had had half a cup of coffee and the end of Clover's toast. She folded the wax paper back neatly and set the sandwich in her daughter's lap. Clover looked at it. Then she looked across the park bench at the small boy sitting alone 3 feet away, his knees pulled up, watching the pigeons with enormous, hungry eyes. "Mama," Clover whispered, "he keeps looking at my sandwich." Tatum looked at the boy. He was maybe 4, maybe 5. No adult nearby that she could see. His jacket was slightly too big, and his sneakers were the Velcro kind, with one strap hanging loose. She looked at the sandwich, turkey and mustard on white bread, packed that morning from the last of what she had, and then back at the boy. She held it out to him. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" He nodded without speaking, the way children do when they are too hungry to bother with words, and took it with both hands. Tatum was 30 years old and had been raising Clover alone since her daughter was 8 months old. She worked the early shift at a dry cleaner on Hadley Street and the occasional weekend at a catering company whose manager called when he needed extra hands and didn't call when he didn't. The apartment she rented was small and clean and had a window box where she grew herbs because growing things made her feel less like she was only surviving. She was, by the world's accounting, a woman with much to give, but she had never found this to be a sufficient reason not to give it. She had brought Clover to Callaway Park that afternoon because the park was free and the afternoon was warm, and Clover had been inside for 3 days straight with a mild cold, and some things matter more than sandwiches. What Tatum did not know was that across the park, on a bench half hidden by the oak tree near the fountain, a man named Rowan Setch had been watching for the last 4 minutes. Rowan was 33 years old. He ran a mid-sized real estate development company that he had built from a single property purchase at 24 and relentless, careful work in the years that followed. He lived alone, had lived alone for 2 years, since his son Fenn's mother had left, amicably enough, both of them honest about the fact that they had built a child together more successfully than they had built a life. Fenn spent weekdays with Rowan and weekends with his mother, arrangement that worked in the practical sense and left Rowan with a particular Sunday evening quiet that he had not yet learned to fill. He had brought Fenn to the park that afternoon while his nanny took a personal day. He had been answering emails on his phone, something he told himself he wouldn't do, something he always did, when Fenn slipped off the bench and wandered to the next one the way 4-year-olds wander, without announcement or destination. He had looked up just in time to see a woman he did not know unwrap her last sandwich and hand it to his son without a moment's hesitation. He put his phone in his pocket. He sat very still for a moment, then he stood up and walked across the park. "I'm so sorry," he said, appearing at the bench with the particular expression of a parent who has been caught not watching closely enough. I didn't realize he'd wandered. He had a snack an hour ago. I don't know why he was hungry, Tatum said simply. Not unkindly, just factually. It's fine. I had enough. Rowan looked at her, then at Clover, who was now sharing the bench with Fenn and explaining to him with great seriousness which pigeons were the fastest, then back at Tatum. "Let me replace it. There's a cafe at the park entrance. Please." "You really don't have to." "I know I don't have to," he said quietly. "I want to. You fed my son." A pause. "That matters to me." Something in how he said it, not performatively, not with the slightly embarrassed generosity of someone managing a social debt, but with a straightforward sincerity, made Tatum stop deflecting. "Okay, thank you." They sat at the cafe's outdoor table while Fen and Clover shared a plate of apple slices and argued companionably about whether clouds looked more like animals or vehicles. Rowan ordered soup and a sandwich for Tatum and coffee for both of them and didn't draw attention to any of it.
They talked for an hour. About the children at first, then gradually about other things, the neighborhood, the dry cleaning shift that started before the city woke up, the herb box on the windowsill, the particular arithmetic of single parenthood. Rowan listened the way people listen when they are not waiting for their turn to speak, but are actually absorbing what they hear. What he didn't say, what he only understood later, sitting in his car in the parking garage on the drive home, was that he hadn't had a conversation like that in longer than he could accurately recall. One that felt unperformed, honest in the way that happens when neither person is trying to manage an impression. He thought about her for 3 days before he did anything about it. On the 4th day, he went back to the park at the same time, not certain she would be there, not wanting to assume. She was there. Clover was chasing pigeons. Tatum was sitting on the bench reading a paperback with a cracked spine, and she looked up when she heard him, and her expression did the thing that expressions do when a person is genuinely glad to see someone and hasn't prepared a way to conceal it. "You came back," she said. "I brought Fen," he said, which was true. Fen was already running toward Clover. "And I thought, if you were here, maybe we could just—" He stopped. "Try again." "I don't have a reason that sounds adequate. I just wanted to." Tatum looked at him for a moment, then she moved her paperback off the bench beside her. He sat down. What Tatum learned over weeks of park afternoons and the occasional cafe was that Rowan had grown up with very little, a single mother, a shared bedroom with his brother, the specific knowledge of what it felt like to be the kid whose sneaker strap was always coming loose. He had built his company not from inherited advantage, but from the memory of not having enough, and from a stubborn belief that knowing what it felt like to go without was not a disadvantage, but a compass. He had never told this to anyone he was trying to impress. He told it to Tatum on a Thursday afternoon while Fen and Clover slept in their strollers side by side, because she wasn't someone he was trying to impress. She was someone he was trying to be honest with, which was different and more rare. "You gave my son your last sandwich," he said quietly, "and you didn't even think about it." "Of course I thought about it," Tatum said. "I just decided it wasn't a hard choice." He looked at her. "It was harder than you're admitting." She was quiet for a moment. "Maybe," she said, "but Clover was watching, and I want her to grow up knowing that when someone is hungry in front of you, you feed them. Full stop." Rowan nodded slowly. "My mother used to say something like that. She sounds like someone worth knowing." "She was," he said. Then, softer, "You remind me of her. That's the most honest compliment I know how to give." Kindness is not the absence of need. It is the decision that someone else's need is visible and matters, even when your own is pressing close. Give what you have. The person watching from across the park may be the one who needed to see it most. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.